G'day folks, my name is Jim Worthen. The show is Worthen One-on-One. We're here on Channel 17 Cox Cable in the south coast of Santa Barbara County every Monday at 2 o'clock, Wednesday at 5 o'clock, and Friday at 7 o'clock. But that's just the first platform. Off of it, we do to the internet, TV Santa Barbara, and you can pick us up probably before Monday's show on the internet. And you go to TV Santa Barbara website, search on demand, and you have to go all the way to the bottom to Worthen One-on-One. I don't know why they hate my show and put it at the bottom. They lie to me and say it's alphabet. And I said, no, I know the alphabet. Or you can go to YouTube and search Worthen One-on-One. And we're there forever. As much as my granddaughter and my grandsons belay it and say it's horrible, they're in the internet a lot more, and they say it's going to be there forever, embarrassing generations after generations of Worthens. So my guest tonight is a old dear friend. We do this about every 6 months, whether we need to or not, when there's an election. And I'm sure he's going to be back after the November election. He's an expert in California politics, Steve Franks.
Jim, pleasure to be with you.
We always say, where were you born, and a little bit about your biography. We've done this 5 or 6 times.
That we have. I was born in the Bronx, New York. The proper name of the town, like Santa Barbara is Santa Barbara. Name of the town is the Bronx. Came out here in the late 50s, along with the Dodgers, and been here ever since. 1960, I started getting active in politics. 1962, I worked on the Speaker's Bureau of Nixon for Governor. 64, I ran a Goldwater campaign headquarters in Los Angeles. 66, I worked with Youth for Reagan. Went into the Army, served in Vietnam, the 1st Infantry Division. Then came back. Labor Day
First
weekend.
Infantry, big red one.
Well, did you know that the slogan of the 1st Infantry Division is the slogan of the Democrat Party?
No.
The slogan of the 1st Infantry Division is, if you're going to be one, be a big red one. And so they have the same slogan.
Different kind of red, though.
Yes. One's patriotic, the other is totalitarian. But came back Labor Day weekend of '68, became state chair Youth for Nixon that weekend, replacing a guy who was starting law school by the name of Dan Lundgren, who later on became a congressman.
And Attorney General.
And Attorney General of California. Good guy, good friend. Been active in dozens and dozens of campaigns, probably in the hundreds at this point, not only here in California, but in some other states. Worked as a coalition director for Giuliani for president. Had the opportunity, a great honor, to work with Mayor Giuliani. Was deputy political director for Bill Simon for governor in 2001,
Former
2002.
Treasury Secretary.
That's the father.
Oh.
The father of Bill Simon was William Simon Sr.
Yeah, that's right.
Bill was Bill Jr. And Bill Jr. is still a good friend. And I've worked for candidates from San Diego to the Oregon border, and I'm still doing that.
Santa Barbara story about Bill Simon Sr. He owned a ranch across from Lake Cachuma, just before you get to Lake Cachuma. Went up the hills on the left as you go from Santa Barbara to Santa Maria. And he had the greatest sign that I've ever seen of anyone. I finally had to ask how this guy got this sign, and then I was introduced to him, spent some time with him. He had a sign on his ranch, T-Bill Ranch, Treasury Bill, T-Bill Ranch.
Yeah.
Everybody thought he Guy bought him with his T-bills. Nope, he was a treasurer.
Yes, and he was a great investor before that. I never had the honor of meeting him. He died before I started working for his son, Bill, for governor, who, by the way, was the last Republican who had a chance to win the governorship. Since then, no Republican, I'm being very careful, even though
Yes.
some guy claimed to be a Republican, hated the party.
Austrian, though.
Yeah, but he was Austrian. But he also said the Republican Party was the flop at the box office, and worked diligently to destroy the Republican Party. He must be proud of himself as to where the Republican Party is today.
Yeah.
We give a eulogy to the state
4
party.
years of Arnold.
Yeah, it was. We got what we deserved with him. He lied to us as to where he stood. Anyway, so I worked on campaigns from water district to school board to city council, supervisor, sheriff races, judges races, assembly, state senate, and Congress, as well as U.S. Senate and governor's races.
About a year and a half ago, you told me in an interview that there were more Republican office holders in California. It's just that they were in school boards, sewer districts, water districts, city councils. Is that still true?
That was true about 4 years ago. Now the Republican Party is dead in most part of the state. The state party is no longer a state party. It is a regional party, and the regions are getting smaller. And one of the reasons, as an example, and this you probably don't know about, there was a Senate race in June, earlier this month, in the 4th District. Open seat.
Northern California.
El Dorado, Placer County, all the way down to Mariposa, I believe. A +4
Senate race.
State Senate race.
Congressman Tom Campbell.
No, Congressman George Radonovich was running.
Campbell was
Former,
just north of him.
Yeah, and Tom Campbell now lives in Orange County, by the way. And so you have George Radonovich, a former Republican congressman, Steve Bailey, the Republican nominee for Attorney General in 2018, and a gentleman by the name of Jeff McKay. So the Republican Party had a strong group of people running.
And it was a plus.
A +4, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Everybody checked off as Republican. So which Republican, McKay, Radonovich, or Bailey, did the Republican Senate leader, Scott Wilk, spend $53,000 of donated Republican money to get elected to that seat? Which one do you think?
None.
Right. Do you know who he did support?
No.
Tim Robertson, the union-endorsed, Democrat Party-endorsed candidate. He put out 2 brochures to help elect a Democrat, the Senate Republican leader. So when you ask me the state of the Republican Party, even the Senate leader doesn't want to support Republicans. And worse, people who donated to him thinking they were going to help Republican candidates, they got their money spent on a union Democrat.
Tell me what the state party does. I know what the local party does, and we're kind of proud of it. We won 28 out of 56 local seats and local, like sewer district, water board. Last time out, many of them were declined to state, but they were vetted by the party, and we have a right to endorse declined to state as well as Republican.
Okay. So let me give you the checklist of what the state Republican Party is supposed to do.
Supposed to do. Okay.
The first thing is voter registration. They have not done voter registration since March of 2013, which is why Republican registration in the state is 23% and dropping, and Democrat registration is 46% and increasing. NPPs, declined to state as we used to call them, are at 22%, rivaling the Republican Party. At one time, about 2-3 years ago, there were more NPPs than Republicans. No Republican voter registration. The second responsibility of the state party is to run candidates for partisan office. So, At the end of the June 7th election, as of today, there are 6 state Senate seats out of 20 that have no Republican on the ballot.
Whoa.
And the minority leader made sure that one of the Republican seats of the 9 goes to the Democrats. Okay?
Is that the one in
4th District up in Northern California.
Republican District?
20 assembly seats out of 80 have no Republican on the ballot. There are there are 2 Republican versus Republican races on the November ballot. There are 10 assembly seats, Democrat versus Democrat, on the ballot.
That's because of our jungle primary, top 2.
The jungle primary, right? Then there are 7 congressional seats where there are going to be no Republicans on the November ballot.
That's out of 53.
There is 1 and possibly 2 there's 1 guaranteed Board of Equalization seat without a Republican on the ballot. And thanks to Jessica Patterson, the chair, there is, as of this morning, 2 Democrats running for insurance commissioner, because we had a Republican candidate, a gentleman from Santa Clara County by the name of Robert Howell.
Yeah.
Good, solid conservative, running. And at the very last minute, she put in an 89-year-old man who, if you shouted, could not hear you, Greg Conlon, and they ran him to divide the Republican vote.
Oh, wait, wasn't Howell endorsed by the state party?
No.
We endorsed him. Okay.
Yeah. The California Republican Assembly endorsed him, but Jessica Patterson put in a 89-year-old man, nice guy, and 20 years ago when I first met him, he wasn't really there. Decent man, and for some reason he was allowed himself to sign the papers, talked into it by one man, a guy named Luis Bueller.
Oh, geez.
And got him in the race to divide the Republican vote. So the 2 Democrats are the incumbent Ricardo Lara, who's corrupt. The second one is an assemblyman by the name of Levine, who has 1,179,000 votes as of this morning. Howell has 1,164,000 votes.
And Levine is a
Democrat.
Yeah.
And Conlon, the 89-year-old guy, has slightly over 1 million votes. So if Conlon hadn't been on the ballot, Howell will be running against Lara, the corrupt insurance commissioner. And so they made sure there was no Republican in that race. I would challenge your audience, as I challenged you on the phone the other day, can anybody name the Lieutenant Governor of California? She is in more hiding than Joe Biden was in 2020.
And I couldn't give you her name, but as we talked about, I said, isn't this some Greek woman that was appointed?
Yeah. Well, she wasn't appointed. Her father, who's a multi-billionaire, bought the seat 4 years ago by giving an independent expenditure of $100 million. That buys a seat, even Lieutenant Governor. So we don't have anybody there. We have a no-Trumper supported by the chair, because she's a no-Trumper. Supported by the chair as our Attorney General candidate. And
you don't think Early's going to squeak it out?
No. I like Eric, but he's not going to be able to squeak it out. Thanks to the state party endorsing the no-Trump candidate.
Yeah.
And then you have the Mitt Romney advisor, Lonnie Chan, as our candidate for controller, who's the only one who has a possibility of winning. He will wind up with plus or minus 38% of the vote. So, and I bet I do know that most people in Southern California have no idea who the Republican nominee is for governor. If not people like you who know that sort of stuff, but the general person on the street, they never heard of Senator Brian Dolley, because He never campaigned in Southern California.
That's right.
He never campaigned south of Sacramento.
Yeah, and we had a candidate, Torino, who campaigned like heck here.
Torino.
Yeah, Torino, who campaigned like heck here, and our county committee co-endorsed him, but I don't think he was able to get far north either.
No, he traveled the state.
He did.
But he only spoke mostly to church groups. We had another strong candidate, Jenny Ray LaRue, who was from Shasta County but moved down to Newport Beach in Orange County. Strong candidate. So we don't have anybody at the top of the ticket. I bet you can't name can you name the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate?
Oh, yeah. Munzer.
Muser, right.
Twice.
Muser. Most people don't know him.
Know him from when he ran for Secretary of State 4 years ago.
Right, but no one's going to know him. He's not going to have any money, and I like Mark very much.
Yeah.
But no one's going to give him money to run
He's
against
a hard
Padilla,
campaigner,
who
too.
only has $10 million to start his campaign with.
Yeah.
And Governor Newsom has over $20 million, and I had thought if we had done this interview 3 months ago, I would have said I've been really worried about how much money of the over $20 million he was going to spend to defeat Republicans for Assembly, State Senate, etc. I'm not worried about that anymore because he's not going to use any of that money for that. He's running for President of the United States.
Right.
When you listen to him, he's no longer talking about state issues. He's taking on Trump. He's taking on DeSantis. He's taking on Kevin McCarthy. He's taking on the National Republicans. He's trying to become the spokesperson for the Democrat Party.
Now, he only got 53% of the vote. That would seem to make him vulnerable if everybody else went.
No, the Democrats did not have, except in a few districts, any get-out-the-vote effort. So that was sitting back in his lazy boy and figure out how he runs for president. He wasn't worried about that. He'll get about 65% of the vote in November. You
don't think there'll be a blue wave that will cut into those?
The red wave.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
the one saving grace for everybody in California, and I can't speak for other states because I could talk about some of it, but California is where I really understand. The only asset Republicans in California have is, as I put in my newsletter, the demented Joe Biden. If it wasn't for Joe Biden and the high energy costs, the high gas costs, inflation, the high food costs, the mess up on Afghanistan, his desire to give every Ukrainian a gun, but doesn't want you or me to have a gun. I love the Ukrainians, but I deserve to have the same freedom of having a gun as they do.
The Supreme Court may have taken care of that today.
That's correct. It may have taken care of that, and I could just hear the explosion on CNN and NBC. Democracy is ended. There's freedom in this country.
We aren't a democracy.
No, we're a republic.
And that sort of came back to bite us with the Electoral College and the renegade secretaries of state who certified bad elections around the country against Trump.
But if we were talking, we talked about possibly doing this after the November election, what we're going to be talking about then is the wipeout of the Republican Party on partisan races for a variety of reasons, and we'll go over that. And just talking again about California, we're going to be an outlier. While most of the other country goes and has a real red wave, California is not. But we're going to be talking about two things. You
don't think there'll be 20% wave here?
No, not in California. Because Democrats are going to bring out the bodies. Guaranteed, at this moment, without any campaigning, as you know, there are 80 assembly seats. Currently, the Democrats have 61 currently. And the Democrats have a guarantee, if they did nothing else, to have 60 seats come after the November
Who are
election.
you giving the Santa Barbara seat to?
The Democrats.
You don't think Mike Stoker can overcome the 18%?
No, not. I like Mike. I've known him for years. He'd be a great representative for the community. But how much money is the state party going to give him for his race? Zero. How much money is the Assembly Caucus going to give him for his race? Zero. He's out there as an orphan, as most of the Republican candidates are, except for the chosen ones. But come November, I think we're going to be talking about two major movements in California. First, the ballot measures, the initiatives, and second, the turnover on school boards throughout the state.
You see that in November.
I see a massive, as you would call it, red wave, but it's not going to be Republican.
No.
It's going to be mothers. It's going to be women. It's going to be parents who are finally fed up with racist, bigoted hatred being taught to our kids. That 5-year-olds in kindergarten are being taught sexual positions. How bad is it? Did you know that 2 days ago the CDC issued sex guidance for people with monkeypox?
Yeah.
Have you seen that list of what you're supposed to do to have sex? The CDC, which has become a political operation of the Democrat National Committee. It's no longer a scientific or a medical thing. It's strictly a political operation. And now they're telling people, and I won't go into, this is a family show, because some of that stuff is very graphic, as what they have suggested, how you...
Well, you can figure out from the raves and where it started in Europe that I'll be graphic, that it comes down to anal sex.
Well, no. They're suggesting if you're going to have sex, how can I best put it?
Visually.
Yeah, do it 6 feet apart. Literally. That's one of the things.
I know.
Do it 6 feet apart. Then the last one I love. If you absolutely positively have to have physical sex, cover up the scabs and the scars.
Oh,
I mean, but this is the type of thing that is getting the parents so angry. And the idea that we are teaching kids, we are grooming kids in kindergarten to be sexual objects. Not reading and writing, that's not the main goal, is to become sexual objects. One little tidbit. In the last year when Disney Corporation has gone from pro-family to anti-family, right, and using films, cartoons, the theme parks to groom kids. Just in the past year, as of close of the stock market yesterday, in 1 year, the stock of Disney has gone down 50%. And their big film, their cartoon Lightyear, which took $200 million to create, had a box office they expected of over 90 million, of actually 51 million. They're going to lose their shirts on that because that movie or cartoon has become a grooming for young kids. And parents don't want to send their kids to the movies or take them, which after the movie, you then have to explain, well, what about this sexual thing that occurred and those kisses that occurred? And these instances, having to explain to kids sex at when you sent them to see a cartoon, you don't expect that to be the outcome.
I've always questioned why the real 1%, maybe sometimes it's 2 or 3%, other times it's 0.5%, are those that we're most concerned about and pushing out on the rest of society, whether it be homosexuality, nothing against it, but they aren't 10 or 20%. Transgenderism, real transgenderism, where there's operations or, like 0.2%. Those are the real transgenders, and God bless them. And they had to do a lot to fulfill their psychological needs, but the rest are just claiming it. And it's just, and a lot of times it's the heterosexual males claiming it to get into female prisons, get into female locker rooms.
Showers, don't forget
Yeah,
the showers.
And
So you're not a fan of the changes of Title IX that Joe Biden just issued
reaffirmed
yesterday
today, yeah.
reaffirmed that there'll be no single-sex showers, bathrooms, or sports teams.
Right.
I just would love to see a great linebacker, 300-pounder, say, you know, I'm now a female, and I want to play volleyball. Yeah, the whole thing is, I feel like a woman today.
Yeah, it's, as I say, as far as I'm concerned, to be very blunt, if you really are transgender, you had your penis cut off, and you've had a lot of surgery, and you're fulfilling your psychological indecision. But until you do that, it's all talk.
Here's one of the great debates going on in Sacramento today, because I know you like policy.
I guess I do.
Okay, so the state of California has mandated that all men's or boys' bathrooms, junior high school up through college, have to have menstrual products in it. So here's the debate going on in Sacramento today. Since tampons are now in limited supply, do we take them from the boys' bathrooms and put them in the girls' bathrooms? And the answer, no.
No, God. No, it's, but I think you're speaking and we're talking about issues that are bringing about the middle class, Hispanic parents wave that's coming.
That's correct. It's not a Republican, in California, it's not going to be a Republican wave. It's going to be the angry Californians about the woke craziness being forced upon the kids, forced upon us. The state of California passed a law that boards of directors of corporations have to have a certain number of gay people on it, black people, Asian, Hispanic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The good news is the courts ruled that discriminatory, right, which it was.
Right. They didn't even leave the gender, the first law is that if you had a 7-member board of directors, you had to have 2 or 3 women, and they didn't touch that, but they didn't reinforce it either.
Right. So when we get down to our next, we're going to see, and not only I truly believe, as I talk to my friends who do what I do, but in other states, I truly believe this election is going to be the angriest electorate. And they're going to be angry not only against Democrats, but Republicans who sound like Democrats, who have decided that they'd rather be Democrat light than true Republicans. And I think some of them are going to have some problems running for re-election because the hypocrisy of their positions are going to be coming out. How can you take away guns through these so-called red laws that Joe Biden wants when you haven't been convicted of anything, haven't even been charged with anything? But, Jim, when we were meeting before and having our cup of coffee, you said something that really insulted me. So after I leave here, I'm going to go to the police station, say you're a dangerous person, take away Jim Worthen's guns. And they will.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to find an attorney to sue to get back your guns.
Instead of having due process before, now you have accusation.
You're guilty until you can prove yourself innocent.
I have a wonderful conservative libertarian friend, and after the 2 most recent mass shootings, I said, he said, we've got to take guns away from unstable people. And I said, wait a second. They're unstable people, I agree, and they're dangerous with guns, more dangerous with antidepressant drugs and drugs. That's what causes mass killings. But what about, let's assume that there's only 1 million unstable people by the definition that society might lay upon them. We don't have a right to do away with their Second Amendment rights without due process or anything. We can't just take away the guns of millions of people because you and I decide they're not stable. There's been times that...
Yeah, but reality, you would believe, as I do, that an individual that is a terrorist, domestic or otherwise, is an unstable person, right? Okay? So, you're not talking about 1 million, you're talking about 5 to 10 million, because remember, the Attorney General of the United States called women who opposed the racism of CRT by speaking out at school board meetings, he called them domestic terrorists. Every one of those women, and the men as well, will have to have their guns taken away from them because they are declared by the Attorney General unstable because they are domestic terrorists. So if you speak out, and what happens to those of us who, in a few days, when we have the Supreme Court decision on abortion, say, yay, we are going to be pleased with the Supreme Court decision on the Roe v. Wade issue. Will we be called domestic terrorists because we want to save babies? And what about all the people, and as sure as I'm sitting here, sure as it's just a cup of water, no alcohol in it at all, and I wish you had put alcohol in there, but this is water. As sure as we're sitting here, we're going to have riots in the streets by the left, and no one's going to take away their guns. No one's going to arrest them for the burning of buildings where pregnancy crisis centers are, where legislators are who support the right to life, protect innocent children.
I saw a map that shocked me. I wasn't aware, and the complaints are just now getting to the Justice Department. 31 incidents of vandalism, arson, and attacks on churches and counseling centers for women who aren't going to have an abortion in the last 2 weeks. A threat on the life of a Supreme Court justice. More than a threat.
The guy had a gun and was a block away.
Yeah. Oh, thank goodness he had second thoughts and called 911 on himself, but he was there.
And we are not proud. The guy came from Simi Valley.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Well, we heard that. Oh, gee. After the Rodney King trial in our town, now this.
Well, he clearly wasn't of the conservative bent or the Republican bent. And I have mixed feelings. All these demonstrations at the churches, the children's schools, and the houses of Supreme Court justices has nothing to do with the Supreme Court. That throughout every state and every judiciary trying to affect a judge's decision by threat and demonstration is against the law. And so I've wondered, why don't if not the Justice Department, the U.S. Marshals and local police start rounding these people up who are marching up and down and yelling obscene things at justices' houses? And I think it's the fear of left-wing violence.
That's correct. And plus, the Attorney General of the United States, who could easily say to the FBI, enforce this law, refuses to do that. So he is a domestic terrorist, allowing these things to occur. The terrorism of the intimidation on the justice, and you're right, it's not just the Supreme Court justices, federal court judges. There's the famous case, I think it's in New Jersey, where they tried to kill a female federal judge and instead shot her son, killed his son.
Well, a little known fact is that of office holders throughout the country, more judges are assassinated than any office holder. Down to municipal courts, and they rule against some crazy woman or man in a domestic dispute, divorce, and the other guy comes in or the other gal comes in and shoots them. We had a famous case in Marin County about 30 years ago where a left-wing activist attorney supplied a gun to somebody who shot the judge. Her name is Angela Davis, and now she's still a left-wing hero.
Oh, better than that, you're paying for her. She's still an employee of UCLA.
Yeah.
As some sort of professor, I forget the titles he has.
They seem to outlive us. Wait, we're here. They didn't outlive us. We're still fighting.
We're still here, but to think that a terrorist like Angela Davis is applauded by the President of the United States, and recently a speech was given by the Vice President in honor of Angela Davis.
Did she serve 2 years? Did she serve it, or was it house arrest for the assisting in that murder?
I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
Not quite sure.
It's amazing, the heirs who bombed the Pentagon
and who did the heirs have as an adopted son? Barry Soetoro, who you now call Barack Obama.
Yeah.
He lived he lived with cop killers. Bernadine Dorn,
Right.
Bill Ayers' wife, was a cop killer. She helped train Barack Obama.
Yeah. When people talk about left-wing violence, the targeted violence was worse in the 60s than the riots as far as killing people. The Black Panthers assassinated a school board member in Oakland and several other people. Huh?
Sure. Yeah, I remember that one.
And they kidnapped
Patty Hearst.
Patty Hearst. They bombed the faculty center at UCSB before the riots started by 6 months and killed a maintenance man.
Yeah.
Everybody forgets that one.
But I would tell you, all of this is, the chickens are coming home to roost. The anger of the American people against the government, not Republican or Democrat, just against the government. It's distrust and disrespect for government. If an FBI agent came to my door, I would say, please come back when you have a real officer. You're not, FBI is no longer a police force in this country.
They've ruined the FBI, and everybody thinks, oh, that's Washington and a few
It's not.
No,
It goes all the way down. And
ask Ted Stevens.
then you have, of course, that's right. Then you have the Marines, which builds men,
Yeah.
using bullets with rainbows on them. You have the Department of the Army that just put out, and Fox News has been playing it a lot, a new video to be shown to all members of the U.S. Army on how to use the proper pronoun. And if you...
Wait, you just can't say asshole?
No, you just can't...
You don't like my language, I know.
No, you just can't say... you have... So if I was to meet you outside here, my first question is, what is your... Not, how you doing, Jim? Not, hey, I like the mustache this week. You trimmed it well. No, my first question is, by what pronoun? And I won't call anybody by the pronoun. Your name is Jim, your name is Jill. I'll call you Jim or Jill or Mr. Worthen or Ms. Smith. I'm happy to do that. But they, them, it.
Yeah, my attitude about that is you can use yourself, any pronoun you like, but for me, you're he. For you, it's...
I'm going to quote my favorite scientist, Dr. Fauci.
Fauci? No, Fauci.
I call him Fascist Fauci. Believe in the science. And when I look at the science, I don't care whether you're wearing cargo pants or a skirt. I just want to know what your DNA is.
Yeah.
That's all that counts. I go by the science, and that's what Fauci has told us to do.
Yeah. Well, and what science? I mean, it's bad enough what he did with the cultivation of our pandemic, COVID-19 in China.
You mean taking the royalties and not telling anybody?
Yeah.
And still refusing to tell how much he got?
Well, and also sending the money over there to take care of the 4 labs in China that were
created the COVID.
As we're getting down to our time's still 15 minutes, but you've talked about the problems. Now, your answer then is the parents, and on the partisan level, it's you run hard against Biden. You don't even the guy in Sacramento running for governor. If you were to beat him, it would be because Biden got wrapped around his neck, which he's trying to avoid because he's going to run against him. But your answer is to run against Biden, run against what the Democrats are doing to us.
And there's going to be a series of significant and very expensive ballot measures on the ballot here in California, including the legislature is putting a constitutional amendment on the ballot to guarantee in the Constitution of California the right to kill babies. The right to abortion. That's going to be
right up to birth.
No, even after birth. Remember, the current law says up to 2 weeks after birth you can kill a baby.
Is that a baby that survived abortion or your own baby?
Your own baby. For
You
instance,
change your mind.
Yeah, if a woman has a baby, perfectly healthy, under the current law in the state of California, if 1 week later she gets crazy or she decides, I don't want to have a baby, and kills it, would you like to go to the grocery store, see a movie this afternoon? Cops won't do anything because it's no longer illegal in the state of California to kill babies up to 2 weeks after their birth.
It's not homicide?
No, it's postpartum abortion. And there are those on the federal. There's a bill in the federal level to allow that up to 2 years.
Well, as our most recently departed female liberal justice said before she was on the court, Roe v. Wade is not constitutional.
Right.
A Democrat liberal said that, and that's obviously going to be the decision. The question will be, is it 5-4? I don't think so.
It doesn't matter to me with 5-4, 6-3. I'm more concerned about the wording, whether it's broad or very narrow. Remember, this is a Mississippi case that's in front of them that could be made broad enough that it covers the whole country, or it could be narrow enough that it only covers a few states.
Well, the Alito opinion that's been leaked is constitutional and covers everybody. I think that it's going to be 6-3, and I think Justice Roberts, given his past history, will write a separate concurring opinion, and he will totally focus on the 10th Amendment, totally focus on states' rights.
Federalism.
Yeah, because that's candidly, he screwed up by saying it was a tax, but that's what he did in Obamacare. He said, it's a tax, but, and he went to the 10th Amendment. He is always, that's been his personal bailiwick, that part of the Constitution, where all things that aren't in this Constitution are the rights of the states, are the people thereof. And I'm saying it in my own
Paraphrasing.
Worthenism, yeah. The more we can move toward the 10th Amendment, the fewer cases the Supreme Court's going to have.
Well, we're going to see more abortion cases anyway, just as we're going to see more gun cases. But the gun case that was decided in favor of the Second Amendment, not the totalitarians.
It's pretty broad.
It was very broad.
They didn't leave any wiggle room in the case was New York gun laws, but they left no wiggle room for any restriction on the right to personally have a weapon. They didn't go argue about due process, getting educated and getting trained before you got your carry permit. But
I think Justice Thomas said in the opinion, and I think it's attributed to him, he says, there is no Second Amendment right unless you have the right to carry a gun.
That's right. It's very interesting, and some of the stupid pundits on CNN and CNBC accused him of being a racist.
Being like Larry Elder's a white supremacist?
Yeah, except he's been married for almost 50 years to a white woman, and his lineage is partially non-African American.
Look, I know when the Democrats have lost a person or a cause when they start screaming racism, because they have no other grounds to stand on, and they hope people say, oh, if he's really a racist, maybe he is a racist, then I don't like it. And so they use racism as a boogeyman, and we need to say, no, you're the real racist. In fact, I did an article this week by a black guy, I think his name is Arthur Price, who said we do have white supremacy in this nation. Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, all these white liberals who don't believe blacks are smart enough to get a job, to get a contract, to go to school, to graduate.
Or have a gun.
Or have a gun. And they, in fact, I'm trying to think of who the black Democrat was who said, well, the Second Amendment is really a white supremacist amendment because it stops blacks from getting guns. And I'm trying to think, I had to reread the Second Amendment a couple of times. I didn't see anything about white, blacks, anybody being exempted from the Second Amendment. Any American is covered by the Second Amendment, and there's no race involved. But these people like to call everything racist. How stupid are the Democrats? How stupid are these folks? Did you know that Berkeley School Board is now debating how to desegregate their middle schools? I want you to think about that. I did the story, my news one. I want you to think about it. Berkeley has segregated schools? Well, it's an equity issue. We don't have enough of the poor people, and poor people therefore are black, therefore we have racism, and if you have racism, you have segregation. They go through all this convoluted discussion over something that doesn't exist. And so my comment is, hey, if there is segregation in the schools, I want to know who created that segregation. I want them fired, tarred, and feathered.
Well, I take the accusation of Republicans, and I don't think anyone's dared accuse me, but of racism as such a historical and such a personal affront. Our party was formed in the anti-slavery movement. Abraham Lincoln died because he was anti-slave. They can say it was the North and South. No, the guy who killed him killed him because he was a tyrant. Yeah. And the Ku Klux Klan, before 1960, when a couple of wonky David Duke types became Klan members, the Ku Klux Klan, you couldn't find a Republican in the Ku Klux Klan before 1950. Anyway, it was a Democrat militia to hold down the blacks, not just in the South, but everywhere. And they expanded, like in Santa Barbara, to hold down the Catholics and the Irish, Italians. And one of the big Klan rallies of the 30s was in Santa Barbara, 20,000 people.
And remember, in 1912, the KKK was dead, and it was revitalized by the Democrat Party.
By the President of the United States.
Who segregated the U.S. military?
Woodrow Wilson.
Woodrow Wilson, a socialist Democrat.
And who integrated the first full integration of a unit? The Reserve General of the Arizona National Air Guard, Barry Goldwater.
Right. But who created the Jim Crow laws? The Democrats.
Yeah.
Who suppressed the black vote? The Democrats. I contend that the Democrat Party is America's historic racist party, even until today. They do not believe that blacks are smart enough to shine their own shoes without government assistance. And that is racist and demeaning.
Was it Biden that said of Obama that a black guy who spoke well and looked good?
Oh, the best line he had, Barack is a clean Negro.
Yeah.
How racist is that? I mean, that was even before he was demented. He was saying racist things. And of course, he was the one in the Senate in the 70s who, along with Robert Byrd, a former Grand Wizard of the KKK, held up legislation to desegregate schools. Joe Biden was a segregationist.
You know, it's amazing how.
And didn't Kamala Harris in debates call him a racist? And then she has no pride. I mean, anybody that dated a married man, Willie Brown, for so long can't have much pride. I mean, she then goes up, becomes the vice president on a man she called a racist?
I told a young lady who works here, we were talking, and she was asking about, doing a book report or something for college, and I talked about Kamala Harris sleeping her way to the vice presidency. And she said, "What do you mean?" And I told her Willie Brown, and I went down the list of men that she slept with as she rose up to vice president. And she went to Google. And it's all here. It's the truth. I said, "Yeah, but you don't hear it in the media, do you?"
Yeah. I mean, she has the intelligence of an ice cube.
That's pretty demeaning to ice cubes.
That's probably true. I mean, I call her the giggler in chief.
Yeah.
How bad is it for Biden? And this goes to the original purpose here. Stacey Abrams, who's running for governor as a Democrat in Georgia, has invited Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, the DNC, Democrat National Committee, just canceled a fundraiser because nobody buy tickets. If you want to have a picture taken with her, 2 weeks ago was $15,000.
Now it's
now down $5. I'm waiting till it gets to $9.95.
Yeah.
Okay. Nobody, no Democrat is asking the President of the United States to campaign for them anywhere. In California, in Maine, in Kansas, in Georgia.
He's too busy sleeping.
They're not even asking him to. And nobody's asking Kamala Harris to campaign for them, except for Stacey Abrams, who's probably looking for a job in the Biden administration.
In the last 4 minutes here, who do you see as viable Democrat presidential candidates who will be able to get the nomination if Biden doesn't?
Hillary Clinton tops the list, and don't tell me that she says she's not running. That's just to get people off her back because of all the stupidity she's been involved with lately. So she's going to lay back a little bit, travel the country. I think Biden, the top Democrat choices to me at this moment, and I apologize for the obscenity, is King Gavin Newsom. I think Newsom is there. Cory Booker, I think, is going to try to do it again. Don't know about any other candidates, any serious candidates. There's a lot of senators and congressmen.
I have to take 2 months off for my baby, Buttigieg.
Yeah, Buttigieg. Let me ask you this. He wants everybody to ride a bike, right? At 2 in the morning, when his baby is sick, is he going to put his baby on the back of a bicycle and bike and pedal his way to the nearest hospital? I mean, the guy's a hypocrite, and he's just a joke.
Now, I think we all know if Donald Trump doesn't run, who the candidate that will inherit 80% of the Republican support is. But the media and some, I believe, really left-wing Republicans are trying to stir up a fight between DeSantis and Trump. Do you see that happening?
DeSantis is too smart to get into such a spitting match. Trump is too smart to get into such a spitting match, because whether he runs for president, he needs the support of the DeSantis people. If he doesn't run for president, he still wants to be a kingmaker,
right,
and he doesn't need to be in a fight with DeSantis. They're going to work it out one way or the other for whatever reasons they come to privately.
We used to call it psychedelic politics because it sounds like you're crazy on drugs. My dream is DeSantis is going to get 12 years in the presidency. The way he gets it is Trump runs, picks DeSantis as his vice president, does a lot of crap, says, hey, I'm getting old, steps down, and DeSantis becomes president for the last 2 years of the Trump term, and he still has a right to run for re-election twice.
That's illegal. And let me explain.
Wow.
Under the Constitution, the president and the vice president cannot come from the same state.
No, that's not true. They can't get electors from the same state. And so they would have to feel that it's such a big red wave.
I don't think anybody would take that chance. Anybody. We've seen how close in the electoral vote it has been.
How quick can Trump move back to New York?
A couple hours.
Yeah.
Or I don't think
legally.
I don't think he'll move back to New York. I think he may move to Tennessee or Texas.
Yeah.
I don't think he wants to be a resident of New York ever again. A resident.
Yeah. Well, never enough time. We were just beginning to get into the fun stuff, the speculation. I like your idea that if Republicans are going to win, if Mike Stoker in this county is going to win, it's got to be running against Biden.
Running against Biden, and don't count on the party to help. Do you know Mike Stoker is bright? He's run campaigns before. He knows what to do. He doesn't need to get the silent treatment from the Republican leadership. He knows what to do. Precinct walking, creating of issues. At today's world, the internet and social media.
Thank you again, Steve.
Thank you.